This is a steal for the Los Angeles Lakers as a brand new report has dropped revealing some big information surrounding Pelinka and his trade plans regarding one particular player who is a familiar face to many Lakers fans. We'll break down that new report and discuss what it means going forward, as well as an interesting tweet and some updates surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers. One of these includes a tweet from Luka Doncic that has fans fired up. A lot to go over today, but before we get into it all, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. About 90% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now a week or so away from free agency opening up, about a week and a half. There's the NBA draft on the horizon as well. A lot of moves are going to be happening, and Rob Pelinka is going to be at the forefront of all those conversations, of course, with all the work he has to do this offseason regarding a center, regarding a 3-and-D wing, all these different things. But some new reports have dropped, including one big report surrounding familiar face in Lonzo Ball that is extremely interesting, to say the least. And let's just dive right into it here. And you can see that according to a few people, Wokey, of course, being the main notable one, the Lakers have, quote, been interested in Lonzo Ball for a while, and there's been some rumblings and some conversations about a return this offseason to the Lakers. So, folks, we've been covering him on the channel for a little bit. We had a couple videos on Lonzo Ball because, of course, dating back to even, I believe, the trade deadline, there was some rumblings there. And now, of course, that the Lakers are at a point where they need a bunch of different holes filled on this team. Does Lonzo Ball make sense? And that's the big question mark going forward. But there seems to have been some recent interest as well in the point guard. And of course, you know, if you've been a fan of the Lakers for a while, we're all familiar. He was a part of the big trade. And he was, you know, he was liked as a Los Angeles Laker for the most part, that there were some ups and downs. But he has really turned things around here, as you know, since he left the Lakers. Now, obviously, last year he was dealing with injuries, had a pretty down year, missed 2 years because of injuries. But he's still a very, very good defender. When you look at what he could bring to a team, it makes it starts to make some sense here. He's only 27 years old. He's familiar with Los Angeles, of course, was drafted there at the number 2 overall pick. Last season in 35 games, of course, coming off of missing 2 seasons, so you can't expect too much. He averaged 7.6 points a game, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. So, of course, his overall stats were low, and they were lower than they were back when he was healthy. Of course, thinking back to that Chicago team in 2021, 2022, in the first 35 games of the season before Lonzo Ball got healthy, they were looking like a threat to, win the East and be one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Of course, Lonzo got hurt. Everything kind of fell from there. And now, and Lonzo was one of the best defenders, perimeter defenders, in the league at the time, especially as a guard. Last year, if you watched him play a little bit, definitely a step slower, looked a little bit uncomfortable out there. The good news is he still has a bit of a three-point shot, 34%, 36% from the field. Struggled overall, just kind of finding his footing. But this would be beneficial to the Lakers because he, of course, is now in a very good spot, meaning, obviously, it's going to be cheap to get him, right? And hopefully he's in a better spot than he was back in last season for the majority of last year, because at this juncture, you're going to need, if you trade for him, to take a step up, right? Get up to that 10-point a game mark and just be, even if he's a backup point guard, he has the assets and the, he has the intangibles and the tangibles to do that. And there was a recent new report that dropped that has Lonzo landing in the Lakers, but also the Lakers landing Jakob Poeltl as well. Now, of course, this is from June 6th, and this one is specifically regarding the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. Now, is that still likely at this point? It seems like conversations have quieted down, but I wanted to bring this up because, of course, it's still very relevant to the conversation we're having now about the new report of Lonzo being interested in joining the Lakers, and of course the Lakers being interested in trading him. Again, you'd be buying him at his lowest value, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Of course, he's not quite as good as he was a few years ago before his injury, but there is a world at 28 years old now that he steps back up to where he was in his, I guess, quote-unquote prime earlier on in his career. And I have faith in Lonzo Ball. He's a very good defender. He's a good shooter when healthy. And he's a very good facilitator. We saw that at, in UCLA. We also saw it, of course, with the Bulls for a while. But this trade is absolutely ridiculous. Now, do I think a trade like this is going to happen? I definitely don't think it's likely, especially now with Giannis Antetokounmpo probably being off the trade block. But there's a big framework here. Now, you can see here, this is about, the Raptors getting Giannis, Jalen Smith, and Javon Carter. The Bucks basically getting every first-round pick the Raptors have, with some Lakers picks in there as well. But the Lakers within that get Jakob Poeltl and Lonzo Ball. And, of course, there's a fourth team involved that gets cut off. But it's also the Lakers giving up Dalton, Knecht, and I believe Gabe Vincent, some salary filler. And you can see Gabe Vincent there in the Bucks portion. So this is essentially, and the reason I bring this up is not necessarily because I think this is going to be the trade, because, of course, this will require Giannis Antetokounmpo getting traded away to Toronto or a team like that. But getting Lonzo Ball in a trade with the Bulls by giving up just a guy like Dalton, Knecht even, would make some sense. Now, of course, what value does Lonzo Ball have? That's, of course, the big question mark. It's hard to evaluate players who are coming off of 2 injuries, only played 35 games. He's only played 70 games total in the past 4 seasons. So you're kind of not necessarily damaged goods because again, he healed for 2 years. He recovered and he was waiting until he was near 100%. And he didn't look quite as good last year. Definitely some rust involved. Definitely some things involved. But at the same time, he improved some aspects of his game in his time off. And of course, free throw shooting being one of the big ones. Of course, didn't shoot a lot of them or anything like that. But it's interesting because, again, Lonzo Ball, does he fit with this team? Absolutely. He fits with the Lakers. You'd be able to put him in as the backup point guard. He'd be able to run the bench unit, whatever that bench unit ends up being, replacing Gabe Vincent, who's probably going to go out in any trade, whether that's a trade for Lonzo or a trade for, somebody else, like a center, the Nick Claxtons of the world, the Walker Kesslers. Gabe Vincent's salary is dangling in the air, along with Maxi Kleber. And I think for a team that desperately needs some reassurance in the backup point guard spot, like again, they signed Gabe Vincent on the mid-level exception. He hasn't really performed. I personally would rather Lonzo Ball over Gabe Vincent, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about that. Who would you rather? Of course, Lonzo or Gabe. I think at this point, like the upside with Lonzo Ball is big. At the same time, you're not giving up a first-round pick for Lonzo Ball at this point of his career. Like again, I don't even know if I would necessarily do a 1-for-1 of Dalton Knecht and Lonzo Ball. You're basically trading a first-round pick for Lonzo, one that showed some signs of promise last year. Second half of the year tailed off a little bit, but now they're at a point where it's like, not only are you getting a point guard who can, be a really good facilitator, but he still has a lot of potential. Yes, he's 27, but he's only played in the league for a few years. I have faith in Lonzo Ball here, and they've been interested in him for a while. So let me know down below, would you want Lonzo, or do you think it would be more of a too far gone in his career following the injuries? But there's a couple other things to go over now. You can see this here, and this is from Brian McMenamin, and this is following the Genie Bus sale. So speaking to people close to both Luka and LeBron, there's excitement about this move for what it means for this team. And the reason I want to bring this up is because Luka Doncic actually broke the silence for the first time and spoke out on the sale of the team and what he expects going forward. Now, with this sale, and even without this sale, with the sale, it seems more and more clear each day that Luka Doncic is going to remain a Laker for at least the next 10 years and probably for his career. He seems to be getting more and more comfortable going to community events, tweeting out things, all these different things. And with the sale now, that money is not a problem. Not that it was before, but again, we've seen they've been constrained in their budget. Players like Alex Caruso, KCP, guys they could have kept, and not necessarily stars that sell jerseys, but players that help, win championships. We're seeing it right now with Alex Caruso in Oklahoma City. We saw with KCP, in Orlando to a degree, not last year, but the first year he got there, helped propel them to, a better team at the very least. And Luka Doncic came out and said, the Lakers are an amazing organization. I'm looking forward to meeting Mark and excited about the future. I'm also grateful to Jeannie and the Bus family for welcoming me to LA. And I'm happy that Jeannie will continue to be involved. I look forward to working with them both to win championships. So, he basically confirmed here that he's going to be returning to LA. We kind of knew that anyways, but obviously this is pretty important news because this sale marks a monumental moment. Every reporter around the league is saying how important this was to, how it wouldn't be that important to most teams, but because of the Lakers and the way that they're a hot destination, but they were constrained a little bit by their spending and the way that the Bus family ran things. It obviously changes a lot and changes everything for the way that Luka views the team, for the way the fans view the team, but also, of course, the way the team is actually run in the day-to-day organizational ability and approaches there. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. Let me know what your thoughts are on Lonzo Ball. Do you want to see Lonzo Ball on the Lakers, return to the Lakers, or would you not? Let me know. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.